Mm. So,
I didn't see you there.
yeah. Pardon me.
Oh.
So, the gist of it is we usually taste the month's seasonal tastes
Right.
for our tea club.
Right.
But this month, we get 4 oolongs, guys. Like, West China tea is really going above and beyond. It's official. You get more tea getting it from our tea club than if you were to go to the source and get it a la carte. You absolutely get better, same tea, I won't say better, but a better price point.
Yeah.
And so $88 a month for our tea club membership, but you get $90, $100, $120 worth of tea.
Slamming.
Right? And then on top of that, you get all our content too. You get the archives of all our talks, right?
Yeah.
You get all these other interviews that we
You
do.
want to go back?
Right? Yeah, in case you want to watch old episodes.
I mean, hey.
They're there. And so $88 a month, you get $100 worth of tea and all our content. We're really trying to make this valuable for our friends. Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway,
More tea.
so much tea is in this month's subscription. There's no way I'm going to serve you 4 different teas while we're talking, right?
Right.
So let me tell you the tea that we will be drinking today.
Okay.
This is, oh my God, I'm so excited about this. Can we zoom in on this? Oh my God. So we did 2 cakes this year. We did a raw pu'er and we did a ripe pu'er. Many of you may have already been familiar with the raw pu'er. It's a dragon, has that beautiful brush painting that we had commissioned on it. But this one we did through our buddy over at Teosophy, Brian. Shout out to Brian over at Teosophy. And this is our 7572 blend. So 7572. 75 is the year that this recipe was first used, 1975.
That's a rabbit.
Yeah. So this rabbit tea, then the next number in the sequence is 7, right? 7572, right? So the 7, that is the number that speaks to the premium of the leaf on a scale of 0 to 9. 9 being the big leaf premium and 0 being, so it's 7, B plus. Wow. You said it. Darjeeling. Yeah. So 75 is the first year this recipe was used. 7 is the leaf quality, and 2, there's 5 factories in Yunnan. And number 2 is Menghai factory. And so this tea, first produced in 1975, grade 7 tea leaves at the Menghai factory. Every year they produce one. And so my wife had a 1980s, which we carry here, 1980 7572, and it's incredible. I'll serve you some one day. I may have already served you some. Yeah. Whoa, it's so good. And so that 80s is really good. And then there's also a 99 that's amazing too. But both of those are the price point because they're already, well vintaged. It's really expensive. And so we got these. It's a 2014, so old enough, right? Officially classifies as vintage, right? It's 10 years, so it's old in terms of tea years, right? But it's a little bit more affordable than the older ones. At any rate, this is an amazing tea, and it's at a good price point. So we got a really big batch of it, so that in the hopes that when it ages another 30, 40 years, then
tight. Ooh. We'll be wheeling in on.
Yeah, you think Shannon looks like Gandalf now? Wait till we pull this out of storage.
My walker. Some of that 7572.
Well, I realize we just spent the first big chunk of this session
introducing a tea,
talking about tea.
Yeah.
I'm a nerd. Geek out. So let's talk about rabbits as we drink this rabbit. I didn't even realize it'd be so auspicious. And happy spring equinox, my loved ones.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna shut up now. Shannon's turn.
Very interesting time. I mean, obviously everybody's, happy spring equinox. This is technically, for those that don't know, just like logistics, this is technically halfway through spring. So, you know, many of our American friends say, "Oh, happy spring!" And like, spring's been around for a while.
Yeah, where you been?
But this is kind of the midway point of spring. I think what's interesting, again, kind of backing up a bit, what's interesting, I think, about this particular time to talk about is, every culture on the planet has a cosmology that includes the sun and the moon. It's kind of essential, to who we are as a human species on this planet. And it's fair to say that in the cosmology of the Tongshu or the Chinese tradition, there's a lot of preference given to the moon. The moon, in fact, is kind of with us a lot more. We see it's much more intimate. It's closer. It goes through very regular cycles, but also has a great deal of nuance. So we're able to track a lot of changes on a daily basis through the moon. So the Chinese tradition favors the moon. It's a lunar system. And by comparison, the sun is a bit distant.
93,000 miles, right?
I mean, it's very important for life on the planet. But in fact, I think of the percentage of the sun's energy that actually makes it to the Earth, it's 0.00000005%. So
we're getting crop dusted in a sense.
yeah, we don't get a lot of the sun's attention.
Yeah.
We get what we need, but this to me is a kind of indicative of the reason why the Daiji symbol that we talk about, that has little fishes with the little eyes and stuff,
Yeah.
things we see on surfboards and whatnot.
It's not ratio, it's process.
Yes, it's not a symbol of proportion.
I love getting answers right.
It's a symbol of a process.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't take a lot of yang to make things move. Obviously, if we're only getting like a crop dusted by the sun.
That's a fart reference, by the way.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I didn't mean it like that. But so if that's our relationship to the primary source of life, this kind of yang, this image of yang, there's good reason why the sun is not like the thing that they've tracked on an astrological level. That said, there are 4 main pivots of the year that track the sun. And we are now experiencing one of them. So the equinox has this, both equinox periods. They say, light and dark, balanced, or day and night the same, those sorts of things. But
coming or going.
That too is not a symbol of a proportion.
Yeah.
It's a symbol of a process.
Dude,
so,
you just blew my mind.
So even I saw this thing on the I don't know, on the interwebs the other day, or some social media that was like, it's actually some astronomer was like, well, day and night actually aren't like equal.
They're
okay.
equitable.
It's like there's still, it's like 4 minutes. But that's the Western mindset. Like we're looking for like proportion, and that's what we mean by equality. In this particular case, like when in reference to the Chinese tradition, what the Chinese tradition is meant by like so-called equality is not proportional. It's harmony. It's meant to be harmony. So at the time of the spring equinox, yang being in harmony with yin instigates a season of transformation. Nice.
A little mahogany, leather-bound book.
Right.
Oh. Smell that.
Some cigars.
So I hope you guys,
That is totally like wet dirt.
yeah. I hope you guys get that as we're talking about astrology, as we do, that you're also picking up like brewing tips, right? Because
Yeah, somebody should
notice we
listen.
smell stuff, right? It's
Oh
cool.
man, that's like my favorite part of making tea in the morning. It's like smelling the tea.
Right?
Yeah.
You would think making tea, drinking tea. No, I want to smell it.
Right. Spend some time with like, because
Yeah.
it doesn't. You don't catch the same. Like once you start brewing it, you can't smell it the same in the same level of richness, right?
Yeah. And
So it's amazing.
oftentimes you get these, commonly sourced teas and they smell great. But then you put your lips on them and bitter, astringent. It needs cream and sugar.
Ugh. Indian tea.
Yeah. So the way I am to tea as Shannon is to chocolate.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's a whole other. Yeah.
We'll save that for
Yeah.
Pig Moon.
Right.
Pig Moon conversation.
Ooh. Okay.
Did I just blow your mind?
Yeah. Good.
And that's twice I caught it that you referenced Indian tea. Uh-huh.
It's a massive generalization. Yeah, so the idea behind the equinox is that basically yang is released. Yeah. Instead of kind of being buried and like kind of guided or kind of watched over by old yin or inspired, like feeling the inspiration kind of rising. Now it's given like from this point on, it's going to be given latitude to move. And hopefully the idea is it's going to develop the maturity to push yin toward fulfillment. So it's going to instigate change. And perhaps with yin's help, new yin, it will also manage transformation. And that's kind of the big deal when we're talking about like equinox and the second moon going into the dragon moon. Like the scope of what we're dealing with is basically we're still kind of at a half-baked stage, right? This is the teenager with the car, right?
Yes.
Dating, not full commitment yet. So really trying to still feel out the potential, but things are moving. And things that are ready to move are moving. And it doesn't require any intelligence to actually have that experience. Like we don't have to know what we're doing. We don't have to know where we're going. We just know that things are changing and moving. And that's what's available right now. But again, it's half-baked. Cheers.
So we love the smell of tea. We love the taste of tea. We love the sound of tea, the slurping and the bubbles of the kettle, and the clay and all these sounds that come from the tea. We also enjoy the feeling of the tea. And so as you sip and feeling the heat descend and tracing how far you can follow. And it draws to mind, when we eat, oftentimes like I'm already looking at my next bite, as soon as something's in my mouth. And
Right.
so this is, opportunity to slow down, taste and feel.
Yeah, differentiation and discernment. Like that's kind of a little bit of what's happening from a chi perspective is that there's differentiation that's happening that's like raw, an arousal that's happening that's very raw. This basically, a la the rabbit, stereotypical understanding of the rabbit is the season of fertility, right? So yeah, so it's all that. It's baby making time.
I was just telling you my oxytocin's up.
I know.
Right? You came in here. Now I'm all rosy. Well, I already made my baby. Baby's coming in July. I changed it.
Baby one.
Yeah,
You
baby's
did, you
on B.
changed
It's on B.
Oh, it's on B?
No, it's on A.
A. It was worth it. You can wait for that.
So if I could get a gist of what you're sharing, there's a lot of raw and the stuff that's moving is moving. However, this is not necessarily the time to get caught up in the mix. It's still a very much observation and kind of waiting to get into the double dutch kind of thing.
Yeah, I think observation, I mean, we talk about these notions of courtship, and we talk about these notions of what's called ganying, and ganying as a very old um, concept that goes way back even in the Huainanzi, that's basically detailing this fundamental principle of resonance, reciprocity. And they use the notion of like musical instruments and strings like on a lute or on a guqin, like that if you play a certain note, anything that's tuned to that note would actually vibrate, right? And without being touched, right? So these are kind of this notion of resonance or even affinity. There's a lot of different ways to frame that. And it's a correlative experience. So it's a correlation. It's not like exact causation, right? But if you're moved, and then we could like reference something like hexagram 31, you know, which is to be moved, this idea of being moved and tracing the sensations through the body, right? Where, you know, we come to like be inspired, to feel inspiration, but not yet move. And so as you trace the lines in that particular hexagram, you're going through kind of the infant's first arousal, which isn't really a sexual gesture. It's just the chi moving, right? Because what we're talking about here is a reproductive instinct that's occurring, a reproductive, even survival instincts. They're just sort of expressing. Think about something that's been, you know, buried underground for a long time, and you let it out, it just starts running in lots of different directions based on one's predilections or predicates of fate. So it's not so much about like trying to identify exactly what those are and like maybe even heading it off the past, but just knowing that that's what's available right now. So, I mean, I'm famously known for telling people to slow down and like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And like, it's not like I'm retracting that, but at this particular point in time, I'm also, I think it's perfectly valid to make a big mistake. Like, go ahead. Like, it's a really good time, you know, to make the big mistake that shapes your entire life. Like, perfect time for that, you know, like,
Wow.
and not to say you should go run out and do that, but like for instance, in these next few days, it's kind of like the theme could be, you know, you never know until you try. Oh, okay, now I know. You know, like that might be necessary in order to kind of calibrate your chi further and to become more realistic about what your aspirations are. Because the idea is that we could be kind of yang chi that's released right now, not very smart, you know, not very mature. It needs new yin. Think like, you know, 15-year-old boy, like not I mean, some bright but not street smart, you know,
Yeah.
like could be really famously book smart and played piano incredibly, but not street smart. So what it's needed is a level of maturity, you know, and this engagement with new yin, this kind of courtship and paying attention, being observant. Rabbits are famous for observance, famous for like paying attention, building relationships, being in a place of trust. In any given year, the second moon is about developing trust and alliances, like, and in celebrating them. Maybe new ones come through, but alliance is like one of the core values of the Zhou in the Chinese tradition. There's no chance you get anything really of significance done alone. You know, you need other people. And so if you're building the capacity to do something, the second moon is the place where I would say this is where we find out who we trust. And actually, so we can make those commitments to go into the summer together, which can be a really dangerous time. So if you don't have that trust established, like you shouldn't go into summer with someone. That's kind of what's up. So in this second moon, there is this trial and error that's actually available. And you would hope, like this is a perfect time to for anyone to consult astrologers and elders, you know, because what you want to be able to do is instead of like projecting the chi of the time pulls you forward and up. And I would say in a dragon year, forward, up, and around.
Okay. Oh shit, there's a qigong for that.
Yeah, I know. That's why I did it. So there is this kind of like, this is the chi of the time, is this kind of up and around. Right? So this movement, of the chi actually this is perfect recipe for fantasy, because we're casting our chi into the future, right? But it's not to be condemned. Make the mistake. It's okay. Like, it's really know that that's how the chi is demonstrating itself, right? So if you can kind of curtail the enthusiasm a little bit and sit down with an astrologer or sit down with someone that you trust, elders, things of that nature, then what you can do is you can discover what the predicates of your faith are. And that's like, okay, like, and you should put your energy there. Right? So that's like a first step in terms of like trying to corral this energy and corral the chi in a particular direction. Because when we get into the dragon moon, we're going to want to verify and authenticate our inspiration. And so this is a good time to kind of figure out, like.
So can I call this Goldilocks moon? Because I want to see if it's too hot or too cold or just right before I step into summer.
Right.
I want to appreciate you for inviting us to make mistakes.
Yeah. This is a great time for that.
Yeah, and I think especially in our culture, we want to just get things right. We want to put our best life forward on the Instagram and on our socials, and nobody wants to look bad, or, we always breeze through montages of training so we can hurry up and get to superhero. Like, nobody cares about the journey. No one wants to look bad trying.
Somebody throwing up in a corner because they.
Yeah, and so thank you for inviting the mistake. We have this thing here that's always on the table. This is a dragon, yeah, but it's actually...
Oh, it's a compass.
No, it's not a compass. I just put the compass there.
Oh.
This is for rubbing ink. And there's a saying in calligraphy, 多喝一点墨水, which translates to, drink more ink. Right? Not because, drink the ink. No, you're so focused on your calligraphy that when you get thirsty, you'll reach and grab, and then you'll be so focused that, I accidentally drank
I love
ink.
those kind of idioms,
Right?
that just sort of like point to the foibles of like people's obsession.
Yeah. And so, thank you for that invitation to make mistakes.
But you can do it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I left the temple, my only wish was that I made more mistakes. Because here I am, senior student, here I am, disciple, here I am, lineage holder, liaison for new students that come. I had so much responsibility. I had to be so perfect that I never got a chance to, try and error.
Well, I can speak from my own like personal experience about the hazards of expectation, and like pressing really hard to like meet certain expectations, either that you have of yourself, like in my case, or that other people might have of you. So this is liver time. So this is the time where, like,
I'm wearing green too, leprechaun.
You need to have like you need to have that be a place where the blood can flow and not get caught. Right. So this kind of expectation that we might have might constrict kind of the liver flow chi, the flow of liver chi, and in the process, then we have these sort of explosions of anger and like crazy emotion, and like triggered by certain expectations not getting met. So this is a very volatile time, especially in a rabbit moon.
Yeah.
Because this moon is also the fire rabbit.
Yeah.
So very feisty,
Yeah.
and also kind of pretty convinced of its own story. So don't need any more information. Fire rabbits kind of got it figured out, and then come to find out they don't. Could have like a lot of explosions of emotion.
Wow, that makes sense. These are kind of like,
Tantrums.
I would say this time of rising yang and coming time of descending yang, like those are the times of mania. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, well, before we go too much further, you illustrated a beautiful movement where you're talking about the chi where, it's up and out, but also around, right? And that reminds me of a movement. Here we go. There's a qigong for that, and we call it serving tea, right? And so the idea is I would have this cup of tea in my hand and offer it to my friend. You want some too? And then I would just continue that flow over my head, around and back through. And then I can get really fancy, right? And do two. This is what struck my mind, right, is getting that movement. And, sometimes people may have a bust shoulder or a tight neck, or maybe they can't express the full range. But, so small could just be here through the wrist. I can make it a little bigger here through my elbow, right? I can go even bigger here through my shoulder, right? I can even bigger still here through my waist, right?
Yeah.
And so we can kind of grow exponentially. And just to make it fun for the mind, you have two going, but one can come, one can go, right? And so
that's excellent. Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, that's because there is that kind of things coming at you from all directions.
Yeah.
Like it's not necessarily like a uniform kind of experience where there's a symmetry. This is where you're going to get things coming from all sides. So like having the flexibility. Would, but also encouraging flexibility, especially in a fire rabbit moon, because fire rabbits are pretty stiff. They can clench.
Yeah.
So there's going to be clenching, and the struggle that comes with that. Yeah.
Huh.
So be kind, like that's the best advice I could give to yourself, and to everyone. Slow down if you feel like everybody's in your way. It might not be the case. You might just be going too fast.
What? I don't want to just bowl people over. No, I don't want to just put my agenda first. No.
Well, and that points to like some of the difficulties we have as Americans or as people in Western culture, because, not only are we like hyper aggressive and looking for the first chance we get, even in the case of, yang worship, we have this kind of like pseudo post-theistic culture that worships the sun, so we're looking for the first chance to be aggressive. And so that brings forward this kind of epidemic of certainty, right? Where we have like a really lousy relationship with, I don't know, we can't stand it. We have to make a conclusion of some kind, even if it's completely retracted later. Like we're gonna tell you with absolute certainty what we think.
Dude, what was it? One more time. Lousy relationship with I don't know. I'm taking notes now. My goodness! Wow.
It's absolute failure. If that's your answer, and like you think it's not an answer, but it actually is a pretty good one in most cases. So it's, the metaphor that I would use, and like what style of yang are you actually trying to mature? Are you trying to mature a yang style that is like a godlike magician? In which case you think that yin is inert. It's just a lump of stuff. And that yang is just boom, turning this into that, and boom, turning this into that. That's what we think. We think nature, not alive, right? But like you bring the heavenly spirit into the vibe, and like anything can be anything else, So it's very tempting that all of us have some version of that idea, right? And that feeds into this notion that the more passion you have and the more aggression you demonstrate, the more likely you are to get what you want. Okay, so that's a very old story. Like we've all been living it, kind of tired of it, probably. Most of us are tired of it. If you're watching this, you're definitely tired of it. But the other style of yang that we might try to develop is what I call like a border collie. Okay, it might actually be skilled enough eventually to operate on its own, but when you're dealing with a large enough flock, of goat or sheep, you might need 2 or 3 border collie, right? And you might need to be trained and take education for a very long time to get to that level of skill to be able to manipulate yin. Yin is moving on its own. A border collie might need to snap at the heels of a particular to get the thing to move, but it's not actually, it's guiding yin, but yin itself is moving, and it takes 1 border collie for like 200 sheep. That's the proper ratio. That's the proper proportion. That's the actual balance, of the season. And maybe you've got like a border collie that's kind of half baked. It doesn't, and so sheep go here, sheep go there, and maybe that's what we're kind of trying to do right now. In which case you might want to have like maybe 10 sheep instead of 100.
Yeah, dial it down.
Dial it down, right?
It says if he's talking to me or something.
Don't try to do everything, like no multitasking. Stop it, stop the multitasking. I mean, I'm guilty as anybody.
Wow.
I know firsthand, like.
That's so on point because you may or may not know this about me, but I don't stop and I go, much
Right.
like our buddy Matt.
Yep.
And, we often say that if you don't stop, the world will make you stop. And so that's what happened to me. I was out in the yard. I was chopping down some, I don't know if you could tell by my skin around my eyes and flank. I got struck with some toxin stuff. And so I was forced to slow down and dial my 100 things down to 10. And
That happened during the tiger movement, though, huh?
The end of the tiger's tail got me. Yeah, roll your eyes. Yeah, roll your eye at the monkey. Roll your eyes at the monkey.
I mean, but what do you expect, right? Like, monkey's not going to learn. It's okay.
I told you I'm flooded with oxytocin right now, right? Yeah,
Well, we're going for episode 2 of Tea Drunk. We're on a roll right now. First move was like straight tea drunk. Yeah, but it's a good time to start things. So, all the cautions aside, do something. Do something, like initiate, just try things out. New disciplines, excellent time for new disciplines. If you're like thinking about starting a new Qigong practice, now's the time to do it, or Neigong, or get in the school, start doing it. So, I mean, in some ways, like up until this point, there hasn't been a lot of, the Qi doesn't really support a lot of strong physical activity, and still doesn't to some extent. In other words, you're not looking to get your second wind in a workout. Your workout should be like light, but you should do frequently. Maybe not like 1 3-hour session, but like 3 1-hour sessions, or 6 30-minute sessions.
Yeah.
Like kind of like spread it out over time.
Yeah.
And just circulate, get it.
Yeah. That's just great advice in general for practice, because, who has that kind of time available to commit to a 3-hour session, for example?
Right.
And then who even has the will or capacity to practice that long and with quality too? So actually breaking it down to a 10-20 minute session and just spreading them out through the day, like peppering them.
Yeah.
You get far more volume, you get far more depth, and you kind of keep a tone throughout your day too.
Yeah. I mean, you should kind of ramp up, slightly ramp up eventually. But at this point, you're just sort of naturally demonstrating your fertility. Because, right? So like,
I need a head. I don't have a head.
We need one. Okay, if anybody can find a sound effect for that, like there's a sound effect for that. Yeah. So if your motive is to look good in a bathing suit, perfectly fine. Like totally cool. Like it's, start where you are and understand like what your fertility is. Like it's the same thing with making mistakes. Like if your motives are, no motive is a bad motive at this point. Like it's actually good to just demonstrate what they are, as long as you're staying in observance of what the correlation actually is. Then there's always an opportunity for development. Even if you find that your fertility and potentiality is based in a fantasy, it's okay. Like go ahead and crash.
Wow. No motive, bad motive. Wow. Huh. I have one of my best friends from childhood. He's, in his 40s now, as I am too, and no motivation, no drive. Been living with his parents his whole life. Oh. And just lost his mom. Dad may be going soon too, and so no motive is a bad motive because he's not prepared.
He's not prepared for the change.
Yeah. And if his dad passed, he'd be out. He doesn't really have a job, just kind of, living on his parents, and no motive, bad motive. Wow. That's poignant because I'm actually dealing with that right now.
Yeah, you can you can develop focus. Focus doesn't look like one thing. Focus looks like so many different things. That's why no motive is a bad motive, because all motives are just demonstration of where you're at, what your actual appetites are. So this is an opportunity. Okay, so in the season, there's opportunity for reinvention, that we've talked about with the wood dragon. It's profound, right? So this would be where it could actually start to demonstrate, this opportunity for reinvention or remaking yourself, like making commitments, trying new things, actually, making, not just like experimenting with something, but like actually committing to something, like trying it out. But you don't get to do that unless you just be where you're at, but if you're in a fantasy land, well, definitely want to do that, but once I get in shape, then I can come to class. That was my favorite one, right? Like
I'll come to class when I'm in shape.
Yeah, I'll come to class when I'm in shape.
No, you come to class and get in shape.
Get in shape. Yeah, I remember that one. So,
we've been talking about Dragon Year a little bit, and I'd be amiss to ask on behalf of our team,
hasn't happened yet. I've been swamped. Just speaking from my own personal experience, like having way too many expectations of myself.
Yeah.
And so just finding, because there's only one season that's in which ambition is actually a good idea, and that's summer.
Yeah.
That's where you're supposed to be bringing things to fruition.
Yeah.
And
it's only like a 2-3 week window, right?
Yeah, it's not very long. But, so it's the fertility thing. Fertility is like 2 weeks. And then like, okay, that's it. Like whatever comes out of that 2 weeks is what you're supposed to provide.
And even the act of fertility of 2 minutes.
From the standpoint of yang, right? So initiation, it's a lot of energy, but it doesn't last very long.
Yeah.
It's like that 0.00005% of the sun's energy, right? So like very little bit of yang actually sets off a whole movement, but the nurturance and the hosting of that movement is all yin, right? So,
dude, hands down, best episode ever, man.
100 to 1.
Right now. Okay. Good luck, bad luck, who knows? It is Dragon Year Rabbit Month.
Anybody who's looking for control and precision.
Roosters.
Good luck. Although I will say to roosters kindly that this is the perfect month for you to demonstrate the auspices for the year, which is to basically poke holes in other people's fantasies, right? to interject realism, into like, that's never going to work. Like that, not that that doesn't necessarily make you friends in this particular moon, but you're not really worried about that anyway. So you might, in certain circumstances, want to, like, if somebody says something that's completely unreasonable to you, not necessarily interject. So level of tact might be appropriate in a rabbit moon. But generally speaking, anybody who's looking for absolute clarity or absolute kind of precision or certainty, this kind of certainty aspect that we were talking about a few minutes ago, is going to have a bit of a difficult time.
Yeah.
And the chaos bit. So if we're talking from the rat might have problems in both of those environments, right? Looking for kind of like a level of survival certainty, and kind of dealing with the kind of haphazard way that yang is demonstrating itself. Ox not even noticing, like it's not really even noticing spring at all. Like it's just kind of doing what it's doing. It's going to come to a full awareness of the Ox Chi will come to full awareness of the wood dragon year in the fourth moon. I'm just saying, they'll be like,
a little slow or something.
Okay, dragon's nice. Like that's so they'll catch up with everybody else on the fourth moon.
Okay, so that'd be tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake.
Yeah, the snake moon is when the ox is gonna kind of come to. Like, because right now they're going on instinct, and tigers actually could thrive this moon. They could do very well if they didn't cripple themselves last moon. So they should. It's not that they shouldn't be careful, but there's a little bit more traction. Because it's a second moon, it's still this kind of fire relationship. So there's still some opportunity there. But generally, as we were talking about with the dragon year, tigers should still kind of keep their focus. This would be a great year. There's a great moon for tigers to really find their focus for the year and stay with it. Because then that'll help them through the next two moons, which could be challenging. Rabbit, if they're in their happy place, which was the prescription for the year, let the year come to you, then this moon would be a really great moon, like rich, like very rich. Have people over. That's what I would say. Have people over to your house, make babies, or care for the babies you have. Like, it's just deeply rich time. If they're overextended,
you hear that 7x7 too? Make some babies.
If they're drinking tea at 7:45 p.m., I can't sleep. Dragons, it's ramping up for you. So I expect to see them in action. That's all I can say.
Okay.
Snakes.
Okay, watch out, dragons. It's my daughter.
Yeah, I know, right? You're going to have a little dragon.
We were planning to have snake and then typical dragon. I'm coming now.
It's not up to you. There's a lot of other people in that room.
Okay, who else we got? Horses, goats.
Snakes. That's what I was trying to. Actually, it is a very good time, but your snakes are still getting their footing. But that's not a bad thing. They should be subtle. They should watch. They should read the room before they make a move.
Okay.
Horse probably also, like the ox, is not paying attention because they're on their way. So it's probably a good idea for them to double back and check on their relationships and before they go back out again. Right?
Good luck, horses.
Yeah. No, I mean this is a very good year for horses.
Okay.
So it's just that
Well,
this is a good time not to get ahead of yourself.
for sure.
To
In
kind of
regards
circle
to the
back.
double back, though, because that's the horse, right? They don't look back.
They don't necessarily look back, but this is a time of building relationships. So if you want to draw on those relationships, if you see or think of relationships as a resource, then it's actually, it makes sense. It's a benefit, to double back for horses, especially if they work with other people. If they're like solo doing their own thing, you don't talk to them anyway, right? But like if they have some fate to be in connection with others and build team, that's where like kind of drawing on, it's not just about your chi character, it's also about the draw of your fate. So every one of the 12 earthly branches would greatly benefit from understanding what their fate actually is. Especially now, especially during a wood dragon year where all this kind of capacity for reinvention is available. Don't spend your chi moving in the wrong direction or in a direction where there is nothing available. Like you want to like kind of you want to be able to put $1 and get back 5, right? That's the ideal. Hey.
Capitalism.
You want to make a good investment of your time and energy. And so it might be a good idea to know what your chart says for the year, where it says, oh, I want to have a baby this year. Yeah, you should wait till next year. Then you know, okay, like let's make other decisions and allocate our energy in different directions. Because you may be having a premonition for something that hasn't arrived yet. So it's a good idea to kind of keep track of that. So double back, if they have friends that they want to like hang out with, that's as much double back as they probably need.
Okay.
Goats is a very good month. Probably their best month.
In forever.
For the year.
Yeah, see?
Until summer. I mean, they can be very instrumental in the building of trust in communities. So they're busy right now in that way. Monkeys. Yeah, they're not out of the woods yet. It's still spring. Roosters, we already talked about. Dogs. Vulnerable time. It's vulnerable.
Yeah.
And pigs, they're waking up. Coming out of I mean, this is the first time. I mean, like, literally, like, most of my early spring, I was like, what's wrong with me? And then I was like, wait, and like looking at the sequence of time, and it's like, the first half of spring is kind of still got its foot in winter, right? So, and being a winter sign, as pigs are, it's not so easy to draw out of the winter sometimes, especially when it was like a water rabbit. Oh my God. I was like, all I want to do is just be in bed every day.
Wallow in that mud.
So.
Sweet rats. Oh, you talked about rats already.
Yeah. So interesting thing about the sun. About the sun. So there's a really cool story that I'd like to share, and that I have some personal relationship with it in like ravens and crows.
Yeah.
Okay. Ravens and crows are rich symbols in every cosmology, but in the Chinese, I was always like really interesting to hear how they were symbols of the sun, right? The three-legged raven.
Whoa.
Yeah. So that early. So this is for all our climate change people. In the mythology, creation mythology of ancient China, the people of ancient China, there were 9 suns. Yeah, the first humans couldn't live on the surface of the planet. They had to live underground.
Oh, wow.
Right? So because it was too hot. So everything comes around again, right? So you had one of the first sage rulers basically shoot out 8 suns, so that, and the crows and the ravens actually came to the humans and said, if you really want to populate the planet, you need to take out some of those suns, right? So it was a three-legged raven
telling them to poke.
That fed the ruler the arrows that were needed for him to shoot out the sun.
Trip out.
Right.
Thank you for dropping some Chinese mythology, cosmological storytelling, because little Wudang folklore,
Oh.
Wu-Tang Clan nothing to fuck with, the birthplace of Tai Chi, the octagon platform was on Crow's Peak.
Right. So the three-legged crow is like a very potent symbol for
Dude, that's a band name.
for the sun, to represent the sun. So this is the point in time in which crow divination is really strong. So like
Swear.
if you're having like just watch them, make friends with them, like feed them, have them come around, like because they're gonna get more involved and kind of pesky, and so it's a very interesting kind of thing. And like it reminds me because like I went to Alaska this last year,
Yeah.
and then I have this relationship with this piece of land up there. It's about 100 miles north of the Arctic Circle, right? So there are ravens up there, and out in the middle of nowhere, and there's a couple. There's like a couple ravens that were like producing young every year, and you would see the young kind of like just making a ruckus, like coming down by the lake and like investigating all kinds of things and making noise. And then back in the distance, back where the roost was, you hear this oh, and then they fly back that direction.
Oh.
So it's like this old couple, and if you've ever read this book called Mind of the Raven. It's an incredible book, Mind of the Raven, and it basically talks about corvid behavior, and that ravens actually mate for like 50, 60, 70 years. Yeah. So, and as it turns out, I live up on Grizzly Peak, in Berkeley, and there's this really big tree off the deck in the distance. It's not super close, but like there's this raven couple because in order for ravens to actually pair up and produce young, they have to have a territory. Like that's why if you see like just mass amounts of crows, just like
A murder?
yeah, murdering about, through Oakland and whatnot. Those are all juveniles, and they'll stay juvenile until they can pair up and find a territory. They will stay juvenile, and just like running gangs, just like finding food wherever they can, and like getting in trouble. So when you see them paired off, it's because they have a territory. And so behind our house, way back there's their roost. And up here in front on the hill, like that's where they watch out. And so you'll see them up on the tip of the tree, just kind of hanging out together.
Yeah.
And then they'll chase off hawks and stuff like that.
So then we have a couple up here in the eucalyptus, and they were chasing off hawks the other
That's what
day.
they'll do, yeah.
And I think, Max, I even had you put some fortune cookies up there for the crow. I had somebody I've been trying to feed the crows lately.
Yeah. So it's they come around too. That's my intention as well. Fortune cookies, that's a good idea. They'll love that. They'll come back for that for sure. So it's a really good time if you have like relationship. Just be nice to crows. Like be good to the crows.
Someone else who really loved crows.
He did, boy. Oh man, yeah.
What would he be doing right now?
Right.
We're talking about Ming, by the way.
Feeding the crows. Question. I suppose this would be the time that you'd be starting classes and teaching
Okay.
and giving the Dharma, right? So so to that extent, you go to dayuancircle.com and download yourself a class. Like support the cause, right? Like they're absolutely every class I've ever downloaded, I'd still support that site, just because it's like so much learning. And so there's some really good stuff that they recently uploaded, and yeah, so pretend like he's still here teaching, because he is.
I thought I had oxytocin a moment ago.
Yeah, now you'll. I'm on fire. Yeah.
Good place. Studio audience.
No questions so far.
Okay. Yeah, open it up for questions. Who's all here?
We got 10 people.
What?
Yeah,
Really?
10 people.
What a show.
We
Okay.
got Connie,
Uh-huh. Hi, Connie.
Heather,
Hi, Heather.
Hexagram 4, Connie. Hexagram 4, Connie.
Heidi,
Hey, Heidi.
maybe, James,
Okay.
Jamie,
Uh-huh.
Mary,
Uh-huh.
Michelle,
Uh-huh.
and NBA. Probably Malcolm.
Oh, okay. NBA. Nothing but attitude. That's me. That's me. That's me. Questions?
You know what we should do is like say, hey, if you have questions, make sure to jot them down. And so that way, because like people, because we're so entertaining.
Or we're so entertained.
They so forget like what was really motivating them to
There's
be here.
entertained and entertaining. We're certainly entertaining ourselves.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. We're having a great time. Yeah, well, it's been a pleasure.
People are leaving, so.
Okay,
All right.
ciao. Enjoy your rabbit moon.
That's, man, probably one of our better